Alright guys, today I'm making a video that is continuing my series where I'm responding to the arguments made by Jerry Coyne, and this video is going to be on the claim that the 4-week-old human fetus has a yolk sac that's basically a useless leftover from evolution. Jerry Coyne talked Jerry Coyne talked about how this yolk sac we have, the human embryos have a yolk sac just like chickens and turtles do, and how this is a useless leftover from evolution, and that we don't need it. Specifically, his quote was, "We have a yolk sac too. You can notice, however, it's empty. There's nothing in it. It doesn't do anything. It's a vestigial feature. It's a remnant of when we used to be. Our genes were shared with those of turtles and birds and other reptiles." Now this guy just made my day. He said, let me read part of this quote to you again. He says, "There's nothing in it. It doesn't do anything. It's a vestigial feature." I decided to, now this video is just going to be on the yolk sac. It's not going to be on the yolk genes that he talks about later on in the video. I'll talk about the yolk genes in a later video. However, a lot of what he says here is just plain not true. The yolk sac it's not a useless leftover from evolution. It's just not. In humans, the yolk sac has nothing to do with yolk. This is true. This is something we all agree on, that in humans, the yolk sac has nothing to do with yolk. And most embryologists these days, though, do not regard it as a yolk sac. They call it the umbilical vesicle. That's because it does have this feature does have a function. It has a purpose, and part of its purpose is it creates the first blood cells that we have in our body. It creates those very early blood cells while the embryo is developing. Remember, this is before the bone marrow is really going and it's really able to develop the blood cells and the blood that's needed. So one argument I read was that the needs of the embryo are just as important as the needs of the adult. An embryo needs to be able to survive too. It needs to be able to have organs that are in order to survive, and a lot of times the organs and the functions of an embryo are different from those of the adult. But the alleged yolk sac, the umbilical vesicle, which is the proper term, it does have a function. It has an important function. It creates those early blood cells, and it acts as the early circulatory system while the adult circulatory system is developing. And later, it's used to build major parts of the body, including the trachea, bronchi, lungs, and digestive tract. This thing is not a useless leftover from evolution that, as Jerry Coyne says, it doesn't do anything, it's a vestigial feature. And it's not that there's nothing in it, there's blood in it. It's used as the early circulatory system. And it has other features as well. It's used in developing other parts of the body as well besides those that are listed, the trachea, bronchi, lungs, and digestive tract. But like I said, this is not a useless leftover from our evolutionary history, but instead a fundamental and brilliantly designed aspect of human development. When we look at engineering, a good engineer will use, what I see here is good engineering. A common creator use similar parts in chickens, turtles, and humans to create us. We see the same thing in human engineers today. A human engineer who designs bridges, that's one example that I've read, he'll use similar concepts in the designs of his bridges. He's not going to make every single bridge totally unique with no similarities in between. That would imply, if he did, if you saw a bunch of bridges with nothing in common, you'd think different people made them. No, the reason there's a lot of commonality between different animals is because one God made them. And this one God wanted us to point to him. If there was no similarities between any animals at all, then we would assume that there were multiple deities out there creating things. Also, there's design aspects, there's engineering points where having a similar feature is a good thing. Using common parts to build different things is a good thing. And human engineers do this all the time. This is part of design economy. It's called a variation on a theme. A human engineer will he'll build two bridges, and they're going to have a lot in common. That doesn't mean that they evolved from some plank billions of years ago that gradually and slowly developed by itself into the bridges we see today. My bicycle and a motorcycle will have a lot in common. That doesn't mean that there was no designer between the two. I mean, they do have a common designer, which is human beings. If in Harley Davidson, they construct some of the best motorcycles out there. You tell people you have a Harley, and they'll ooh and ah at you. I am sure Harley Davidson, I'm not an engineer, but I'm sure Harley Davidson uses a lot of similarities between their different designs. And that's, so to say that this is not stupid leftovers from evolution. And this is good engineering. We have a common creator, and he used variations on a theme. And this is something that human engineers do all the time. And the Yolk Sac is not a useless leftover from evolution. Jerry Coyne was either mistaken or dishonest in this argument, and honestly, he should have done better research. Going up in front of a bunch of people and saying, "Well, we have this Yolk Sac, and it has no function. It doesn't do anything. There's nothing in it." Saying all these things. Here, I'll read you the quote one more time. He says, "We have a Yolk Sac too. You can notice, however, it's empty. There's nothing in it. It doesn't do anything. It's a vestigial feature." And he ended up using this as an argument for why would God design us like that. Obviously, God didn't design us. And what he's doing here is messing with some things that he shouldn't be messing with. I mean, this is the things he's messing with are a little bit too important. He's going around and lying to people about God. At the end of the day, he's not just lying about science, he's lying about science. Or maybe he's not lying, he could have been mistaken. However, he should have done his homework, like I've said in other videos. And to do this, to try to get people to be atheists, to try to get people to accept evolution and reject what religion, reject the Christian faith, it's dishonest, and he shouldn't be doing it. At the end of the day, he's either lying or he hasn't done his homework. So that's my video on the alleged Yolk Sac in human beings. My future videos will include videos about the yolk genes that Jerry Coyne talks about in his presentation. It'll include several of his other arguments, and please look at some of my other videos for some of the arguments he's already posted, and also check out my website, which is greenslug.com, greenslugg.com. Alright, and just one more thing I have to say. The Bible says, the Bible has a verse in it. I can't remember exactly how it went. I'll put it up on the screen in a second, though. It said something to the extent of, those who cause little ones to stumble, they cause little children to stumble. It is better for them to have had a rope tied around their leg and for them to have been thrown into the ocean. They would have been better off if that had happened to them than if they had caused little ones to stumble. And if you're going around lying to God's children, saying or misleading them, even being lazy about the information, you're going around telling them that the things he made are useless and that they don't do anything, when the scientific facts show otherwise. It's not good. It's not good. heard one preacher, he was talking about wanting to get revenge on other people, and he said, you don't need, in a nutshell, he said, you don't need to go get revenge on people. Do you really think that anyone gets away with anything with a just God out there? If there's a just, all-knowing, all-powerful, all-loving God, do you really think anybody gets away with anything? And this is my response. Like I said, this is my response to what Jerry Coyne has to say about the Yolk Sac, and going around telling people this is a useless leftover from evolution that doesn't do anything. This does a lot, and without it, you die. So, this is Greg, out.